prices are crashing, but not the way clickbait makes it sound. If you compare today's street prices to the absolute peak of 2020 through 2022, when panic buying, election cycles, and supply chain chaos pushed demand through the roof, the difference is real. Manufacturers scaled up production aggressively during that surge. Warehouses expanded. Assembly lines ran overtime. Retailers stocked deep because everything was selling. Then demand cooled. What we're seeing now isn't collapse, it's correction, a post-panic inventory hangover. And in certain categories, especially mass-produced platforms, that correction is significant enough to feel like a crash compared to peak pricing. In this video, crashing means one thing: current real-world street price versus inflated panic-era pricing. Not MSRP from a decade ago, not collector value, not emotional attachment, pure supply and demand. Every firearm on this list is mass-produced, widely distributed, and affected by one of three forces: oversupply, generational shifts, or hype cycle fatigue. None of them are bad guns. In fact, several are outstanding values right now precisely because the market moved past its frenzy phase. And nowhere is that more obvious than the AR-15 market. The PSA PA-15 is the definition of scale production. Most common configurations feature a 16-inch barrel chambered in 5.56 NATO, direct impingement gas system, forged 70-75 T6 receivers, and typically a 1.7 twist rate. During the panic years, even basic carbines climbed sharply in street price. Palmetto State Armory massively expanded output during that surge. When demand normalized, supply didn't instantly shrink. The result? Aggressive pricing pressure. Compared to peak pandemic pricing, entry-level PA-15 models now sit dramatically lower, making them one of the clearest examples of true post-panic correction for many first-time buyers. The M&P15 Sport II was the gateway AR. Standard models include a 16-inch 5.56 NATO barrel, 6-position adjustable stock, and direct impingement operation. It built a reputation as a reliable, no-nonsense entry rifle. But the market changed. Budget AR manufacturers multiplied. Lower-priced competitors undercut legacy brands. When AR platforms became commodity products, brand recognition alone couldn't hold elevated panic-era pricing. The Sport II hasn't collapsed in value, but compared to its surge peak, today's street pricing reflects a clear compression. Ruger entered the AR space leveraging its long-standing brand credibility. The AR-556 commonly features a 1-inch barrel chambered in 5.56 NATO, M-lock handguard configurations in many variants, and traditional direct impingement operation. It was never positioned as ultra-budget, more mid-tier dependable. However, when the entire AR category overheated, even mid-tier rifles saw price inflation. Now, with inventory stabilizing and consumer urgency fading, the AR-556 reflects broader market softening. It hasn't cratered, but relative to panic highs, it clearly illustrates how saturated the AR segment has become. Before the micro-compact revolution, the original M&P shield defined slim concealed carry. The Gen 1 9mm model typically ships with a 3.1-inch barrel, polymer frame, striker-fired system, and 7+1 or 8+1 magazine capacity depending on the base plate. It was thin, reliable, easy to conceal, and for years it dominated the single-stack market. Then expectations shifted, when higher capacity micro-compacts entered the scene offering double-digit round counts and nearly the same footprint. The value equation changed. Not because the shield stopped working, not because reliability dropped, but because consumers recalibrated what optimal carry capacity meant. At the height of concealed carry demand during panic buying cycles, even single-stack pistols commanded strong pricing. Today, with Shield Plus variants and competitor micro-compacts crowding the shelf, Gen 1 models trade noticeably softer on the secondary market. That's not failure. That's generational displacement. And it's one of the clearest examples of market-driven correction. The Glock 43 remains one of the slimmest mainstream 9mm carry pistols ever produced. Chambered in 9x19mm, it features a 39-inch barrel, 6+1 standard capacity, polymer frame, and the company's striker-fired safe action system. Its appeal was always minimal width and proven durability. But the concealed carry landscape evolved quickly. when consumers realized they could carry 10 to 15 rounds in a similar footprint. The 6+1 format began to feel limiting, at least from a marketing standpoint. Glock's brand strength keeps resale stable compared to many competitors, but relative to the height of panic-driven demand, pricing pressure is evident. This is not a platform collapse. It is expected inflation meeting supply normalization. The Glock 43 still excels at extreme concealability, yet the broader market has shifted toward capacity efficiency, and that shift has softened demand enough to create real buying opportunities compared to prior peaks. The Springfield XD series built its identity on a few distinctive traits: polymer frame construction, striker-fired action, and the addition of a grip safety alongside a trigger safety. Full-size 9mm variants commonly feature a 4-inch barrel and double-stack magazine capacity. For years, it competed directly in the duty pistol segment during earlier waves of handgun demand, especially when availability tightened. XD models benefited from general scarcity pricing, but unlike platforms that secured massive institutional contracts or continuous redesign cycles, the XD line gradually lost spotlight share as newer striker-fired ecosystems expanded. This wasn't sudden, it was incremental. Competitors rolled out modular systems, optics-ready slides, and aggressive marketing campaigns. As attention migrated, the XD's pricing leverage weakened. Today, rebates and competitive retail positioning make many XD variants considerably more affordable than their surge-era levels. The design hasn't regressed. The market simply diversified. And when consumer focus spreads thinner, price compression follows. The Gerson MC312 represents a classic import-driven value play. Most configurations are 12-gauge, gas-operated semi-automatics, commonly paired with a 26-inch barrel in hunting setups and chambered for 2 3/4-inch and 3-inch shells. It was never marketed as a luxury sporting gun. It was positioned as accessible, and that accessibility became amplified during the demand surge years, when shotgun inventories tightened across the board. Even entry-level imports saw elevated pricing. Retailers didn't differentiate much between premium and budget once shelves started thinning. Availability alone carried value. But shotgun demand is cyclical, and once panic purchasing slowed, import flow didn't immediately stop. Turkish manufacturers continued shipping high volumes into a cooling market. That imbalance matters. When supply remains steady and urgency disappears, price flexibility increases. The MC312 didn't crash because it failed mechanically. It was corrected because volume-driven distribution met normalized demand. In mass import categories, elasticity is stronger, and that elasticity is now visible in street pricing. The Rock Island VR60 is a magazine-fed, AR-style 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun built around a detachable box magazine system rather than a traditional tubular feed. It entered the market during a period when tactical aesthetics drove enormous interest. Visually aggressive platforms surged in popularity. Hype cycles can be powerful. They can also be temporary. When the tactical shotgun trend peaked, demand spiked not just from practical buyers, but from novelty seekers. Limited availability amplified the effect. Pricing floated upward alongside the broader firearms surge. However, novelty-driven markets cool faster than utilitarian ones. Once initial excitement levels off and consumers reassess practical applications, velocity slows. Retailers adjust accordingly. The VR60 didn't disappear. It simply moved from hot item status to stable inventory. That transition reduces urgency, and reduced urgency pressures pricing, compared to its peak hype window. Today's street numbers reflect a normalization phase, a textbook example of hype cycle correction rather than product decline. The SDS Imports Lynx 12 follows an AK pattern layout chambered in 12-gauge, typically utilizing detachable box magazines and semi-automatic operation. It blends rifle ergonomics with shotgun payload, creating a distinctive niche platform. Niche is the key word. Unlike traditional hunting shotguns with consistent seasonal demand, AK-style shotguns rely on a narrower enthusiast base. During heightened buying cycles, that base expands temporarily as consumers explore alternative defensive or recreational options. Availability tightens, prices rise. But niche demand does not always sustain at scale. Once broad urgency fades, Specialized platforms feel the contraction more sharply. Inventory lingers longer. Retailers compete harder to move units. That competition manifests in pricing adjustments. The Lynx 12 hasn't fundamentally changed as a design. What changed was the market environment surrounding it. When enthusiasm contracts back to core enthusiasts, the broader pricing cushion compresses, creating visible correction compared to surge-era peaks. The Savage Axis was engineered from the start as an entry-level hunting rifle. It is a bolt-action platform commonly chambered in calibers such as .308 Winchester and .30-06 Springfield, typically featuring a synthetic stock and a sporter profile barrel around 22 inches depending on configuration. It was never meant to compete with premium precision rifles. It was built for affordability and function. During the broader firearm demand surge, even budget hunting rifles experienced pricing lifts simply due to availability constraints. But unlike defensive carbines or carry pistols, bolt-action hunting rifles are less influenced by political cycles and more by seasonal demand. As inventory normalized and rebate programs returned, price compression followed. The Axis hasn't lost utility. It simply returned closer to its original value-driven positioning, and compared to surge pricing, that shift feels substantial. The Ruger American rifle occupies a slightly more refined tier within the budget bolt-action category. Standard models feature a 3-lug bolt design, Ruger's power bedding system, and are chambered in a wide range of popular hunting calibers. Barrel lengths vary by configuration, commonly around 22 inches for standard calibers. Unlike AR platforms, hunting rifles did not experience extreme speculative buying, but they still saw upward pressure when overall firearms supply tightened. As production stabilized and competition intensified between entry-level models, margins narrowed. The Ruger American did not collapse in value. Instead, it reflects competitive compression within a crowded segment. When multiple manufacturers fight for the same price-conscious buyer, street pricing adjusts accordingly, especially after peak demand subsides. The Walther PPS was once a benchmark slim 9mm carry pistol. Most variants feature a striker-fired system, polymer frame, and single-stack magazines typically ranging from 6 to 8 rounds depending on configuration. It was purpose-built for concealment before higher-capacity micro-compacts reshaped expectations. When capacity standards evolved, the PPS did not suddenly lose reliability or build quality. What it lost was competitive advantage in round count per inch of grip length, as consumer attention shifted toward double-digit capacity and compact footprints. Single-stack demand softened. That shift is visible in secondary market pricing today. The PPS remains functional and practical, but market momentum moved forward, and pricing adjusted with it. If there's one thing this market cycle proves, it's that timing matters more than headlines. When urgency disappears, emotion exits the transaction, and that's when pricing becomes rational again. For patient buyers, rational markets are powerful markets. Every platform we covered today exists in a competitive ecosystem. Manufacturers adjust production, retailers adjust margins, consumers adjust expectations. When those three forces realign, numbers shift, sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically. The key is understanding why they shift, not just noticing that they did. This isn't about chasing the lowest possible dollar amount. It's about recognizing value when momentum cools and shelves are full. Smart buyers move when pressure fades, not when fear spikes. Now I want to hear from you. What are you seeing in your local stores? Are prices matching what we discussed? Or is your area moving differently? Drop your observations in the comments. Real-world data always tells the best story. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure to subscribe for more market analysis like this. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.